In this video, we are going to discuss supply and demand and demonstrate how we can use a system of linear equations to model this situation. So first, let's start with some definitions. So the quantity supplied of a good is the amount of a product that a company is willing to make available for sale at a given price P. The quantity demanded of a good is the amount of product that consumers are willing to purchase at a given price P. The equilibrium price of a product is defined as the price at which quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. So, the basic idea behind this, by the way, is this. If a price is high, then the amount that a company is willing to produce, like let's say we are selling hot dogs, which we'll be doing in our upcoming example. The higher the price is that you can sell these hot dogs for, the more hot dogs a company would be willing to make. If you can sell hot dogs for $100 each, you would want to make as many hot dogs as possible. Whereas if the price is low, let's say it's only 50 cents that you can sell a hot dog for, you don't have much incentive to make a lot of hot dogs. You might want to use your resources to create other more profitable items. The same goes for demand. If hot dogs are $100, very few people are going to want to buy a hot dog. Very few hot dogs would be sold. However, if the price of a hot dog is only 50 cents, more people are going to buy those hot dogs than if they were even $5, right? The cheaper a product is, the more people will want to buy it. And then the equilibrium price is kind of where these two quantities meet. So let's go through this scenario. So suppose that the quantity supplied, S, and the quantity demanded, D, of hot dogs at a baseball game are given by the following functions. So S of P is equal to negative 2,000 plus 3,000 P, and D of P is equal to 10,000 minus 100 P, where P is the price of a hot dog. And we'll answer these questions. First, find the equilibrium price for hot dogs at the baseball game. What is the equilibrium quantity? So when will supply be equal to demand? So let's start with that. When finding the equilibrium price, we always want the supply function to be equal to the demand function. And that will be when my supply function is negative 2,000 plus 3,000 P equals, and my demand function is 10,000 minus 1,000 P. And I just need to solve this system of equations. So again, I have a variable term on both sides. I have a number term on both sides. What I like to do in this situation is get rid of the smaller variable term, which would be negative 1,000 P. So I'm going to add 1,000 P to both sides. These cancel out. I'm left with negative 2,000 plus 4,000 P equals 10,000. I want to get that P by itself, so I'm going to get rid of the negative 2,000 by adding 2,000 to both sides. The 2,000s cancel out, and I have 4,000 P is equal to 3,000. No, I'm sorry, it's 12,000. I added that incorrectly. 12,000. And then finally, I divide by 4,000. And 12,000 divided by 4,000 is 3. So what this is telling me is that the equilibrium price for a hot dog at the baseball game is about $3. At $3, you will get basically the equilibrium price is that there will be enough hot dogs to satisfy all the people that want a hot dog at that price, more or less. You won't end up, if you priced it too high, you'll probably end up with extra hot dogs. If you price it too low, you'll sell out because too many people will want them. All right, next, determine the prices for which the quantity demanded is less than the quantity supplied. So that means we want the quantity demanded, that's D of P. So again, this was part A. Let's do part B. So D of P, when is that less than the quantity supplied, which is S of P? In other words, that would be when, if the price is maybe too high, when would the demand for hot dogs be less than the supply? In other words, at the end of the day, you have extra hot dogs that you did not sell. Again, we just plug in our formula. So our demand formula, we plug in, then we plug in our supply formula. And we solve. And again, this will be almost exactly the same. So I'm going to do this rather quickly without talking too much. And again, here we're going to add that 2,000. And at the end, we divide by 4,000. And we end up with 3 is less than P, or that's the same as P is greater than 3. So this is the equilibrium price. This is kind of when, at the end of the day, you'll basically sell out exactly. And that's if you have $3 hot dogs, that's the perfect amount. The person selling the hot dogs is incentivized to make exactly the amount of hot dogs that is equal to what people will buy at that price. Whereas if you make the price higher than $3, then the person who's selling the hot dogs will make more, thinking that they'll make more money than they will actually sell, because the demand for hot dogs will be lower, because if a hot dog is $3.50 instead of $3, you're going to sell slightly less hot dogs. All right, so what do you think would happen to the price of hot dogs if the quantity demanded is less than the quantity supplied? So what happens eventually? Well, if every day this hot dog stand is selling hot dogs for $3.50, and every day they end up making too many, and they end up having to throw hot dogs away, and they're losing money because of it, or at least they're not making as much money as they could. They might realize, hey, $3.50 is too high of a price. We need to sell more hot dogs, so we should price our hot dogs lower. And theoretically speaking, eventually maybe they lower it to $3.25. They still have slight kind of extra hot dogs that they're throwing away. Eventually they will find that equilibrium price of $3, and that will in that case, they will create exactly as many hot dogs as they sell each day, more or less. So I'm not going to write that answer out, but that would be how I would answer that problem. All right, so that's an example of how to use a supply and demand equation. And these equations, by the way, you don't need to worry about knowing how to create these. These will be given to you in most scenarios. And your job is just to know how to find that equilibrium price, or how to figure out when the demand is smaller than or greater than the supply, etc., etc. All right, and so that is our video for today. Hope that was helpful, and we will see you in the next video.